Hello, welcome back to the Syncrolight video tutorials. This time we're going to be looking at pixel grids and pixel megatrees. You may remember last time we looked at basic pixel strings. Well, these can be configured and connected together to form large grids or megatrees that you can run lots of different effects on. So to start with, we'll have to create a pixel grid. We'll look at pixel grids first. So we'll go ahead and create a pixel grid now. So like we saw with the pixel strings, you just select add new pixel item, and then in this dialog you want to select pixel grid. Now over on the right hand side you have to enter the width of your pixel grid and the height. So pixels are connected together if they're either pixel strips or individual pixel nodes. You wire them together on a couple of outputs or a single output of a controller, but you must remember to power inject your additional strips or extra strings, otherwise you don't get enough power to the LEDs and they appear very dull or the whites come out sort of very yellowish. So you must remember to inject extra power. So if this pixel grid, will create one that's 100 pixels wide and 20 deep, so that's 2000 pixels in total. And you can see there it's got total pixels 2000. Now in the bottom, this is where we actually assign what controller they are on. So I will assign 1000 to output 1 of this pixel controller, and then I will assign another 1000 onto output 2. So we're using two outputs of the controller, one to do the first 1000 pixels and then the second output to do the other 1000. So we've got 2000 pixels in total in our pixel grid. Pixel grids can be any size, but if you're doing text or anything, you do want to make sure it's a reasonable size to get clear letters. So when that's configured, you press OK, and then it comes up with this pixel wiring tool here, and it can shows you how the pixels are wired. So each of these circles is a pixel, and it shows you it's starting in the top left here and going down vertically along the pixels, which isn't quite how we'd wire a pixel grid. So this needs rewiring here. There is a little zoom out in the corner. You can zoom it in and out if you need to give you an idea of what it's going to be wired like. So to rewire it, you can manually rewire it, but there is an automatic rewire which we'll do. So we'll click on this, and then it's asking you how you want to wire it. Well, the pixel grid for this demo, we're going to wire from the bottom right hand corner all the way up, alternating directions. So in this grid we'll start from the bottom right. It's going to be wired horizontally and in alternate directions. So when it gets to one end, we'll then go backwards. So it'll go left to right, and then it'll go right to left, then left to right. So alternating directions as it wires. If I click OK and confirm the rewire, you'll see that's now rewired it for us. You see now down in the bottom right is where it starts with our first pixel, and it goes along the bottom line of pixels, and then it goes along the second row, backwards and forwards all the way up. And you can see where it says number 2, that's the start of the second output. So that's our first 1000 pixels. Remember, we configured two outputs on the controller, 1000 on each output. So that's our first 1000, and then we've got a second 1000 doing the top half of the grid. So that all looks correct now. So we can just click OK, and then we've got our pixel grid configured there. The next step is to add the visualization. So we'll go ahead and open the visualization, and we'll just create a new one again. And then in here there is a pixel grid item on the toolbar. It's just a case of plonking that down, making it the size you want it, and then go into item properties and select your pixel grid, and that'll change colour to show you that it's been assigned to the pixel grid. So going back to the main window, when we select cells and right click, you may remember you can right click or you can use the effects tab up the top there. But if we right click, select pixels, and then if we just select ticker tape, there's various effects we can do. We'll just look at this ticker tape, which is just going to scroll text across your pixel grid. So if we just put welcome as the text, you can select the font, so we'll make it a little bit bigger, say 16, and then we can preview that. We can either preview it in screen mode, or if we toggle this across, it does display it sort of as pixels in little circles, so you can see, you have an idea what it looks like that. See, that's just going to scroll across. It's got a white text on a red background. So if we just click OK on that, and then you see it's put the pixel effect in there, so in ticker tape. And if we just play that, you'll see you get the text appearing on our pixel grid. So if we go back in that, you'll see when you click on it, you get two layers. You can layer these effects on top of each other, and I'll quickly demonstrate what we can do. We'll just quickly demonstrate that now. So if we go back into the ticker tape by clicking on it, I'll just change the colours. So I'll just make it just red text on a black background. So it's just like that. And then what I'll do, I'll select some cells down the bottom, right click, and put the snowing effect over the top. So this just like little snowflakes that appear. So you can go and assign the number of snowflakes you want and the size and the speed. So we'll just leave it like that. Click OK. So that's now got a ticker tape with snowing over the front of that. So if I play that, you'll see we've got snowing in front of the ticker tape. Now you'll see the ticker tape's quite long and the snowing is quite short. So if you can drag and drop, you can drag to make it bigger and reposition it to where you want. Or you can use these little sliders here. This is sort of representing how long this snowing effect is within this block. So I can drag that all the way to the end, and you'll see that it's now totally filled it. So now when I play that block, you see you get the snowing all the way to the end. A couple of other things, we can do fading in and fading out. So we could fade the snow in gradually using this bottom bit called transitions here. So we can do a fade in and a fade out. So that now the snow will gradually fade in and fade out at the end. So it's quite easy to create effects on sort of pixel grids like that. Next we'll take a quick look at pixel megatrees. they're created in a similar way. So we right click here, do new pixel item, and then you get an option here of a full 360 degree megatree or a half megatree. We'll just select the half megatree so it's easier to sort of see. And then again, it's asking for the width in pixels and the height in pixels. So if we say it's 15 pixels across and 100 pixels high, so that's 1500 pixels. And again, on the bottom, you assign it to a controller. I'll just put it on one output, but like the pixel grid, you could split that onto several outputs if you wanted, but I'll just leave that on one output. Then you can see we've got total 1500 pixels, pixels configured 1500. So I click OK, and again we'll get this pop-up showing the configuration, the wiring. And again, this probably hasn't quite wired it the way we'd want it wiring. So this is started from the top of the tree. We really want to start it from the bottom and then wire it up and down. So again, we'll use the automatic rewire. And then this time we'll start from the bottom left. And then we'll go vertical and then alternate directions. And then that goes up the tree. So the first strand goes up. And then at the top of the tree, you wire the end of your first set of pixels into your second set. And then it goes down the next. So this, you have to think of the tree being flattened into a grid. That's all a pixel grid, pixel megatree is really. It's a stretched out grid that's stretched out at the bottom. So this doesn't give you the tree shape. It just shows you how they're sort of conceptually wired. So that gives us all our 1500 pixels. You see the last one ends up at the top there. So we'll click OK on that. And then again, we'll go into the visualization. And again, there is on the toolbar, there's an item for a megatree. So we just click on that, drop it where we want it, right click to stop the draw mode, and then we can resize that and position it on your display to whatever size and shape megatree you're creating. So I'll just do it like that. It's showing it in red at the moment because it's not been assigned to any item in the show designer, so we'll go and do that now. In fact, one thing I will just quickly go back to do is that's called pixel grid. So let me just go and rename this. It always defaults to my pixel grid, but you can rename them. So rename that to megatree. Then I'll just go back to the visualization. And then I'll assign that to megatree. And you see it changes colour. And then like before, we can select and add a pixel effect. If we just start with a colour gradient. And you click preview, you'll see that's the sort of colours. Again, this has got defaults to screen mode, so this is just a block of graphics on the screen. But if we swap that over to pixels, you'll see we get a picture of the tree. So you can have a better idea of what it's going to look like. I'll just go and change some of the parameters here. We'll put a 45-degree angle on it, and then maybe we'll make it a bit smaller. Then once you've got one you're happy with, you can press OK, and then it'll generate that effect. Then we can play it. You'll see it's got that effect going on the tree. One other effect that has mainly been done for mega trees is the spiral effect. So I'll quickly go in and show you that. This creates, if we go into preview mode, it creates a sort of spiral down the tree. Change some of these, you can see it a bit better. It creates like a spiral wrapping around the tree. So here we've got the depth on the configuration. It's got 6, which is 6 pixels in each ribbon as it's wrapped around the tree, and the angle that it goes down the tree. So you can have it, if we make that 90, you can have a very steep angle, or you can have a shallower angle. So you can play around with those figures. And you can also have multiple colours. This is red fading through to yellow. You can see here, if you click on the colour, it's got red fading through to yellow. And then we can add another colour in. So you say we could add say blue in there. Click add. Make that 6 again. Keep the angle the same. Say 60. So you see we've now got a blue. So you can add up to 6 different colours in here and lines in here if you so wanted. There's a couple of other effects in here. It defaults to spiral, but it has got spin, which goes round the tree. So you have got that sort of effect. Again, you can speed them up or slow them down. And we can change the width of them there. So if you wanted to spin round the tree. And there's also a horizontal that goes up and down the tree, so you can have effects going up and down like that. So you can have blocks. I'll just leave it set to the spiral. So then if we play that, we'll see. So we've got the pixel grid there. And we got our colour gradient there, going across the pixels. And then we've got our spiral. So you can see it's very, very easy to create effects in the show designer for grids and trees. We've put a lot of utilities in there to help you. One other quick thing I'll show you. We haven't really done much of the configuration of the controller, but there's one thing I'll just point out here which is quite handy. In the configuration, so if you go into the configuration editor, you can drill down to your mega tree and the pixel grid that we created. And you can get back into the screens, those configuration screens, by clicking on the config there. And if you've got the wiring wrong, or you want to tweak the wiring, you can get back into that screen and change any of those parameters in there. And then on the configure, you can get back into that screen to change the controllers, the channel outputs you've got them set on. We'll look at setting up Ethernet controllers for pixels in another video and covering the device manager. But just for the purpose of this video, I have got an Ethernet pixel controller connected to the network and configured with this IP address. If you've got the control lights turned on and you go into the configuration editor, over on the right hand side you will get a little icon. So if you look on the mega tree, you get little icons over here. and you can see that it's highlighted a potential problem, that the software goes off and checks your configuration against the controller, and you can see here it's flagging up a little error, not enough pixels configured, it says. So if we click on that, it comes up with this controller validation, and it's highlighted that there's not enough pixels configured on my controller. It's saying that I've only got 900 pixels configured, but in our configuration for the tree we needed 1000, so it's highlighting a potential problem here. And you can click on the all results, and again it comes up with that validation error. So it's saying output 1 is not configured correctly, but 2 is configured correctly. So if I just go into the configuration of the controller, so I'll just go start the device manager and look at this controller, look on the pixel outputs, you can see that I've got 900 configured on that instead of 1000. So I can change that to 1000, save that to the controller, now if we go back into the configuration, the pixel grid, it's still flagging a problem, but if we go in here, it only sort of checks them once rather than continually check-ins. But if we click this clear button here, it'll go and check again. You can see we've now got 2 ticks, so it's saying that both outputs are configured correctly there. If we look at the mega tree, because there was an issue with that one, it was coming up with a red cross. So if I click on that, it says output 3 is disabled on the controller. So that's highlighted another issue. So if I go into the device manager again and have a look at that controller, look at the outputs, yes, you can see output 3 is disabled. So if I change the configuration on the controller to enable it and click save, so you can see output 1, remember, has got the ones for the pixel grid, so it's got 1000 on output 1, 1000 on output 2, and output 3 has got the 1500 for the mega tree. So if we go back into the configuration editor again, again clear the cache so it rechecks it. You can see now it's okay. So that's what you want to look for, is all the ticks in your configuration. If you've got your controllers on the network and set up, then that's what you want to get is the ticks. But you've got to have your controllers connected and on the network for that to appear. If you've got the control lights turned off and you go into the configuration editor, then you don't get that, because obviously the network is not running, therefore it doesn't check the controllers. But if you turn that on and you've got your network connected, you'll get them. You see I've got errors on the first one. That's just the Christmas tree. That's the default one. You see I haven't got network 1 configured, so I haven't got the USB plugged in. That's why that's highlighted. That's on the 485 network rather than the Ethernet, which is why that's highlighting there. So yes, I hope you found that useful. That's it for this time. Thanks for watching.